Hey guys, Dr. Neckel here from eSleep Wellness, and I'm here for another tip. So this time, now that we know about melatonin, which we talked about at the end of last week, we know we can use that information for our advantage to try to fall asleep. So one thing that we can do is dim the lights prior to going to bed. So we're so used to being exposed to bright lights all the time that we don't really think much about our lighting. But as I mentioned before with the melatonin, our system is very aware of the lighting, and those cues from our environment tell us when we need to be sleeping and when we're awake. And so if we have really bright lights up to the time we're ready to go to bed, then, our body is slow on the uptake to switch from day to night. So if your lights ablazing all the way up to bedtime, then it's going to take some time for your physiology to catch up. As I mentioned before, melatonin is the darkness hormone. So now that it's dark, it can start getting produced. But you can get a head start on this if you actually start dimming the lights a couple hours, and that may feel a little extreme. If it's a little extreme, start with an hour. If nothing else, start with 30 minutes before you go to bed. But start before you go to bed of toning down the lights, taking the bright overhead lights down, and maybe just going with like a side lamp prior to going to sleep, so that you can start to cue your body to the fact that we're winding down and we're moving towards sleep. So start changing the physiology. So you can do this in a number of ways. You can, add a dimmer to your overhead lights so that it has a gradation and you can decrease the level of brightness. You can add, there's light bulbs that do this where those like three-way lights where it's like light, medium, and dark or bright, and you can put those kinds of light bulbs in your lamps so that you can turn it down a notch. Or you just have a low-powered lamp that when it's time for gearing down, this is what I do at my house, that we turn off the overhead lights, and then we use the side lamp that's more low-powered and it's more dim, and it starts to cue the body to winding down, and it starts helping the melatonin production. And so it obviously, knowing what we know now about melatonin, if you give your body a head start, the person who's done the dimming has a head start than on the person who's like bright lights, TV going, computer on to straight to bed. The person who's been toning it down got a head start and will fall asleep faster. I mean, that's the biggest advantage of this. I mean, there are some others in terms of circadian alignment and even awakenings, but the biggest advantage is delaying, so sleep latency is it refers to how long it takes to fall asleep. So shortening your sleep latency is really the biggest advantage of doing this. And the last thing I have to say about this is be consistent so that it becomes a habit. We can talk about sleep hygiene more later, but this is part of sleep hygiene, which is not cleanliness. Sometimes people think hygiene means cleanliness, but basically good habits. So in this case, because it's sleep hygiene, it's good sleep habits. And so make this a habit so that you habitually just turn down the lights an hour before bed. And the next time we'll talk about more ways of adding some cues into your environment prior to bed as well. But let's just start with that one. So dim the lights for an hour, we'll say, give or take, prior to bedtime. Okay, that's the tip for today. We'll see you next time.